So many times, unexpected things happen in our life, and they can be tragic. Sometimes they can be funny. They can be tragic. They can be expensive. But when unexpected things happen, if we can learn lessons from them, always best. When I was 16, I believe, in the fall of that year, we had finished corn harvest, and there was a spot of corn left unharvested because all the tumbleweeds had blown in, and it was really hard for the combine to get in there. So my dad told me and my sisters if we would go pick the corn by hand, he'd create a backboard on the side of the truck and we could throw it in the back of the truck, and then he would thrash it and he'd sell it and he'd split it between the kids. That was cool. We could earn some money. So it was a fall day, a little breezy, and my sisters and I were out there walking through, throwing out the weeds and picking the corn, and we'd throw it over into the back of the pickup. And as was the day, we liked to listen to the radio, so we left the pickup running, turned the radio on so we wouldn't run the battery down, and we slowly moved through this cornfield. And then I looked over and I saw smoke. And I ran over there, and there was a fire underneath the truck. The catalytic converter had caught the stubble on fire. And not knowing the exact right thing to do, I immediately jumped in and turned the pickup off. And the fire grew worse and worse and started burning the truck. My sisters were in a panic. I ran down to the end of the field because there was a grain truck that I knew had a fire extinguisher, grabbed the fire extinguisher, ran back to the pickup, pointed it at the fire, which really was underneath the truck, squeezed the little handle, and nothing happened. You see, it had been used once before, and once you use them, they leak all the pressure out and they don't work anymore. So we stood there in tears watching our dad's pickup burn. We were about 8 miles from home, in a field on a highway. So we ran down to the highway and we stood on the edge of the highway, and people saw us, these kids, standing on the highway and a truck burning in the field. They pulled over. Some of the truckers that were driving down the highway radioed on ahead, because back in those days there were no cell phones. They had CB radios, and they radioed on ahead to a town 18 miles away to get a fire truck. So it took a while. It took 45 minutes or so for the fire truck to show up. And then people had to contact my dad. So it took a while for my dad to get there. We were all upset, obviously, because we had just burned up the pickup. And I was afraid what was going to happen. But I learned some interesting lessons that day from my dad. First of all, a lesson I learned about the event was you need to understand the environment that you're operating in. Now, should my dad have known that the catalytic converter would catch the stubble on fire? Yes, but he didn't know we were going to leave the truck running. We should have just started the truck, moved it forward, and shut it off, and you could still leave the radio running and weren't going to run the battery down. So whatever environment you're operating in, you need to understand the right way to operate, and you need to understand what some of the hazards are so that you can avoid them, so you can look out for them, so you understand what you're working in. If you understand the environment that you're working in, you have a better chance of being successful and not creating problems and not burning up the truck. The second thing I learned that day was, as a leader, you need to learn to trust your people. Like I said, my dad arranged this all. He created a sideboard on the side of the truck so we have like a backboard to throw the corn against, and it would fall into the truck. He did that. And he set us on our task. He told us what to do. He gave us direction. He gave us clear goals to accomplish. And then he left. And he left us to do the work. because he trusted us enough in his field to get the work done. One, because there was a financial reward for us at the end. And he knew enough of us, his children, his workers, to trust them to get it done. We need to trust our people. If you're running a business, you need to trust your people. Because when you put trust in them, they will perform at a higher level because now they know that you trust them with what you've given them. You trust them with the opportunity. You trust them with reaching the goal. And when you put trust in your people, that frees you up to do other things. That was a very valuable lesson. I didn't get these until years later probably, but you've got to trust your people. And then this was a big one. You need to respond instead of reacting. Like I said, I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know if my dad was going to be angry, yelling. I didn't know what was going to happen. I never saw my dad yell. But this could have been it. It was his truck. It was his work truck. It was the only one he had except for a really old one. My dad didn't yell. I'm sure he was upset. I'm sure he was angry, but we didn't see it. And he calmly just went to work, getting the insurance company to deal with it. The most upset I saw him was he wanted the back bumper off the pickup, because when he bought it, he had the regular one taken off and this big heavy steel bumper put on, because it was a work truck. We pulled trailers with it, and he wanted a good solid bumper. He wanted that bumper. But since the insurance company had totaled the truck, it was theirs. If he wanted it, he could buy it, and he wasn't going to buy it. That was the most upset I saw him. The lesson to learn is even when bad things happen, a leader does not react. Because when you react, it's usually out of emotion. It's usually out of anger. And then you may regret what you say or what you do. A leader, a true leader, will respond to whatever's going on and deal with it. Yes, you may have to deal with people. You may have to discipline people. You may have to do that. But if it's truly an error in judgment and a mistake, there's no need to fly off the handle and punish people. Respond, deal with it, and move on. The next thing that we all should understand this is you should plan for failure. You should plan for emergencies. You should plan for hazards and things like that. I mean, obviously my dad had insurance to plan for that in case it should happen. We don't want it to happen, but you need to plan for it. And when hard times come and when unexpected things happen and when you burn up your dad's truck, the only thing you can do is move forward. The only thing my dad could do is move forward. Yes, the insurance company totaled the truck. Pickup. Now, there's an interesting story about it. I almost burned that one up too, but that's a story for a different time. But you just move forward. In the face of tragedy, in the face of hard times, in the face of challenges, you just need to pick up and move forward. If you sit there and dwell in the problem, dwell in the challenge, dwell in the unexpected that happens, and you sit there and you just live in that muck, you're not going to get anywhere. You're not going to achieve anything. So you got to move forward. And then the last thing I learned, even in the face of tragedy, even in the face that I burned up my dad's truck, he still found a way, we still found a way to finish picking the corn. He went and had it threshed, and he sold it and gave the kids the money. So even in the face of hard times, even in the face of things that happen that you don't even expect them, that knock you off your feet, you can still reap the rewards of what you're working towards. You find another way. You go and complete the task. It may be a roadblock. It may be a stumbling block. It may be a dead end. You go around it, find another way. But eventually you'll reap the rewards. So, in the face of something that was really bad, because we burned up my dad's truck, there were a lot of lessons that I learned from that. And a lot of them I learned from my dad about who he was. Not only who he was as a dad, who he was as a farmer, who he was as a leader. And he always treated people that way no matter what happened, whether it was in the community, in the church, no matter what happened, he didn't get angry and upset. He dealt with the problem and he moved on and found solutions to still accomplish the goal, but move forward. So, when you have hard things happen, when you have challenges happen in your life, use these lessons and move forward. Respond and don't react, and then you can reap those rewards. I'm Mark Schinner, and I'm growing your success. And I want to thank you for watching today, and I'll be back and talk to you tomorrow.